Hi, this is Chris Kilkenny with paperfairychris.blogspot.com, and today I'm going to show you how to create this mini album to take a photo a day in December and record your memories. This album has room for 31 photos plus room for journaling, and I'm using the One Horse Open Sleigh 6" by 6" designer series paper from Stampin' Up. This is an online exclusive. Now, how I usually start when I'm creating these mini albums is I'll look at the sheet that comes with the designer series paper, and it will list the coordinating colors that go with the paper. This paper has a mix of scenic patterns, scenic and patterns. So there's 48 sheets for each of 12 designs. And so I just kind of audition each piece to see what I might want on my cover, kind of how I want the theme of the album to be, which pieces I'm okay with cutting up and using the back. At least with 4 sheets, like for each designs, it's easier to use the back of one that might be my favorite. So you'll need to start with the inside pages of your book. You'll need 5 pieces that are this wide. 12 inches, 11 3/4, 11 1/2, 11 1/4, and 10 3/4. Now, how tall you want your pages to be is how tall you want your book to be. I want my book to be 6 1/4 inches tall because I'm working with 6 by 6" paper. So you'll have scored each one 5 1/4 inch, turned it, scored it at 5 1/4 inch on the other side. You want to do that with all 5 pages. Once you've done that, you'll see how the centers kind of start a little wider and go in a little smaller. So you'll want to stack each of your 5 sheets on top of each other with the widest one at the bottom and the smallest one at the top. A general rule when attaching adhesive, when you want to attach the tear and tape, put it on the piece that you're about to stick down, because you're going to have a little edge, like about 1/8 of an inch edge between each piece to allow the pages to turn and give you a little room to add things in there. And if you attach it to the bottom part that you're going to stick it on, you might have a little overhang of tape. So attach your tear and tape to the piece like this that you want to stick down, and then stick it down. And be really careful, because once you stick that down, it's not going to move. So now you'll have the inside of your book, and I'll put all of these measurements in the description down below as well. Next, you'll want to create your cover. So I like to use extra pieces of chipboard for the cover. So to create your cover, you want to measure your front panel, your front panel, your back panel, and your spine, and just add 1/4 of an inch all the way around. So the 2 covers of this book are the 2 chipboard pieces you'll need are 5 1/2 by 6 1/2 inches, 2 of those, and then your spine will be 1 3/4 inches by 6 1/2 inches. Next, I'm going to need 2 pieces of 12 by 12 paper to cover my chipboard. So I'm sticking 2 pieces together, and there'll be a seam down the back of the spine, but I'm not really worried about that because it'll get covered up. I'm using the We Are Memory Keepers bookbinding tool. I create a lot of mini albums, and this tool is just awesome. It does perfectly. This little piece that I'm measuring there leaves like the perfect amount of space between your spine and the covers. It's just the exact amount of space that you need so that it will turn perfectly. I'm going to round the corners. So this little tool helps you round the corners. You just put it on the edge. It has a little corner rounder. Just draw it with a pencil, and you're going to cut that part off with your scissors. Next, you'll use the bookbinding tool. It's just really just a guide. I'm not measuring anything here. I'm just using this tool as a guide. The tool itself is about 1 inch wide, so I just put that at the top of the paper, and then I'm going to glue my spine to the paper, center that with those 2 pages that I'm putting together. The reason I'm using those 2 pages is because I don't have a piece that's long enough to fit the entire part of the book. So I want to glue that down so it doesn't move. And this bookbinding tool gives me just enough space at the top that I'm going to fold down over that, which you'll see in a minute. So I'm going to put on my back cover, and then this little edge measures it exactly how far apart I want them to be. That way they'll both be the same. Next, I'm going to glue on my front cover. Again, I'm not measuring anything, just using the tool as a guide. Okay, I'm going to let these dry just a little bit before I cut the excess paper off. Making sure everything's where it needs to be. I'm going to use this to help me round the corners. So you just line up your corner that's rounded there, and then just trace the little corner round spot. I don't know what you call that, but and this is going to be a guide that's going to help you, like when you miter the corners, it's kind of like mitering the corners, but it's going to help the pages fold in smoothly for a rounded edge. Okay, I'm going to draw. I'm just, again, not measuring. I'm just putting this tool there and drawing a line. And this is where I'm going to cut my paper out. It's not anything, exact. I just want about an inch or so of paper to be able to fold over. So I'm not even using a paper trimmer or anything. I'm just cutting that out with my scissors. Okay, now I have my paper cut out. And I'm going to cut the edges and cut around that little mark I drew. So cut around those edges, and then I'm cutting, after I cut that out, I'm just kind of cutting some little slits so that it'll fold down. So just cutting that out, and then just cut some little slits right here. I'm going to do the same thing on the other corner. Okay, now when I fold the pages down, I usually like to start at the top and use a bone folder. You want to get a really good crease. You want to get that really down. And then I'm going to fold in the rounded corners. I'm going to glue the top down and then the bottom down, and then I'll do the sides. I mean, I think you could do it any order you want, but I just always do it this way. Use your bone folder because you want to get a really nice crease. If you have any little excess pieces, just snip them off. These are going to get covered up, so I'm not real worried about how it looks. You can use any adhesive. I've done it with like tape. I just kind of use whatever's closest to me that I can reach. I don't really have a preference. I like Tombow liquid glue is what I usually use. This glue is just what I happen to have handy right next to me. I had a new bottle of it, so as far as for video purposes, I wanted something that was going to come out easier. That wasn't going to have to shake, you know, like when you have an old bottle. So I just happened to use what I had there, but you can use anything. Okay, and then I like to, you know, bend it a little bit. Okay, the other thing I wanted to do on this album is sand the edges. Because I wanted to give it kind of a, you know, a worn look. And I also feel like when you sand the edges, it helps it like to seal a little bit better on there. Okay. The other thing that I would probably have done differently is rounded the corners of my inside pages before I attached them together. I did it afterwards. I think I was kind of looking at it. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then I said, oh, I want all the corners rounded. So I was able to round the corners after they were attached together, but it might be a little bit easier to do it, you know, beforehand. And when you round the corners with a corner rounder, go really slowly. Make sure you have your paper all the way in, because with a corner rounder, it's really easy to like touch an edge and have it off a little bit. So take your time. This is some early espresso paper. It's some retired, it was called Coordinations paper from Stampin' Up. But you can use, you know, any paper you want, really. I had to use 12 by 12 so that it was big enough to cover, but you could probably piece something together if you needed to. I really liked how these edges, you know, sanded down and looked really worn. Okay, now I'm going to, like I said, round the corners. Should have done that before. When I attach my pages into the book, I want to make sure I put adhesive on my pages, not on the chipboard. I was trying to decide here if I wanted to cover that piece of chipboard, you know, with a piece of paper, but I ended up deciding not to do that because I was afraid it would pull off of there. So I just used a Stampin' Right marker to just darken those edges, because you can kind of see it a little bit whenever the book's open. It's not like totally like necessary, but I just didn't really want the chipboard to be showing, but it probably would have been fine. I mean, it is like a crumb cake color, but I decided to just color those in, and then I'm going to glue my pages or tape the pages with the tear and tape directly to that center. I also, after I rounded the corners on my inside pages, I did sand those edges a little bit too. I like to give my pages a personal touch. A lot of you know I have a corgi, so each of my books will probably have a little piece of corgi hair attached to it somewhere in the book. like to give it that personal touch. I was just kind of deciding here which pages I wanted my covers to be. You'll see at the end, I'll do a walkthrough. See, I didn't use that page. I used something else. Okay, I'm going to show you how to create these photo flaps. They're super easy. You'll need 6 pieces, and they are going to be 5.5 by 3. And you're going to score it at 1/4 inch, like at the top. And so you'll stagger these. They're all the same size. So you can fit, a photo on the top, lift it up, a photo on the inside, and on down. So when you attach them, start at the top and then put your second page just a little bit down right below that flap, and then your third page the same way down. And again, probably would have you round the corners before you stick these in there. I mean, unless you don't want to, you don't have to. I love making these flaps. It's just such a great way an easy way to add more photos to your album. All right, here I just created a fun little pocket. I just made like a little pocket, and I put basically a card inside the pocket, and then there's just a little flap that goes over the top. And here's a walkthrough. I had just a number stamp from my stash, and I just used Versamark and gold embossing powder and just numbered them 1 through 31. That way I'll just have a spot to stick my photo from each day in December. I made the 25th page for December 25th the biggest because I'll probably have more than one for that day. There you go. I hope you enjoyed this album, and if you make one, let me know in the comments. I'd love to take a look at it. Thanks for stopping by.